I was in Kabul from 2010 to 2011 initially, and I was there to work at Kabul Education University with teachers to train them in better English teaching methods and education methods. I ended up extending my project into 2012 and started working in the public schools with the public school teachers and the children in the public schools, specifically the female teachers and the girls.
The Afghanistan Jala Shah remembers a decade ago was vibrant and recovering from the last era of the Taliban rule.
The women still were working on gaining basic human rights, access to education and healthcare. Just to give you some perspective, in 2003, which is when World Health Organization and the World Bank started taking statistics, because 2001 is when the Taliban initially fell and they just don't have statistics from that time, about 3% of girls were in primary school and 6% of girls were in secondary school in 2003. That's not very many girls in school. And then in 2017, just a comparison, that's one of the most recent statistics we have, that had risen to 33% of Afghan girls were in primary education and 39% were in secondary schools. So when I was there, it was closer to 30% of girls were being educated in the country.
After the Taliban took control of the country in late August, thousands of people feared for their lives as they tried to flee and escape to safety. And those who worked alongside the Afghan people also feared for the safety of their friends and loved ones.
It's hard to believe what Taliban leadership is saying now, because in the last 20 years, and even when I was there at a relatively peaceful time for the 2 years from 2010 to 2012, there's targeted killings by Taliban, there's assassinations, there's kidnappings, extortion, suicide bombings. It was all happening even during the most peaceful times, and the mistreatment of women never ended. But behind the scenes, my educated friends, that's because I worked with the educated class in society, they're hiding. They're calling me a few times a day, pleading for their lives. The official word of the Taliban right now, if you can believe it, is women should stay at home because it's dangerous right now. The Taliban fighters aren't trained to treat women well. Let that digest. This is what the Taliban said at the beginning of 1996. They said, oh, there's fighting going on and we're afraid that we'll mistreat women in the fighting. You should stay at home. Well, we know what happened. 5 years later, women were still at home. They didn't have access to health care, education, basic needs were unmet. And this is at stake again. We don't know the new Taliban, but we know how they were a week and a half ago. We know that there were targeted killings, assassinations, subjugation of women. All of these things were happening just a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. And now women are hiding. They're not at work right now. Taliban says that girls can go to school. None of my friends' girls have left their house since the Taliban took the major cities and the country. Everything's at stake. Everything that the educated men have done is at stake.
Jala wants Americans to know that while Afghans may be afraid for their future, they're also fighting for the Afghanistan they love.
Afghans are some of the most respectful and nice people I've met anywhere in the world, and I've worked in multiple countries in the world and multiple Muslim countries. They're nice people and they don't give up. So we are seeing the reports that Afghan National Army, police, and government surrendered without a fight. Well, the Afghan people are still fighting. They're advocating for themselves. The female members of parliament, many of them have stayed behind, and they're saying, if the Taliban says that I can participate in government, I'm staying and I'm keeping my seat. The Minister of Education is a female. There's so many women advocating for the rights of all Afghans, not just women, and I think we're missing that story. 27% of parliament is women. That's equivalent to female representation in America right now. So, 27% of our representatives are women. I think we're just missing how amazing Afghan people are, and that they're not going to give up, and they're not going to be subjugated, and they're not going to let the Taliban manipulate them. I hope that we can understand that Afghan people are strong and good people too, and we shouldn't forget about them either. We should continue to fight for their rights.
For many people,